Welkom bij de StageCoach Sessions
met Gareth Pearson.
Welcome to StageCoach Sessions, this time with Gareth Pearson, and we are in New York, the Big Apple.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple. Gareth just relocated here from Canada, and full disclosure, we've done 3 courses together for the online publishing company from Florida, TrueFire, which is a while back. The first one we did when you were still living in Wales. The 2 other ones we did when you were living in Canada. And since then you've relocated to New York. You're a real globetrotter, and we'll discuss that all later on. But first I want to talk a little bit about your musical history and about how we got here. Did you have a musical family that you grew up in?
I did indeed. So I think the musical side comes from my father. He started playing guitar when he was about 9 years old, and he's one of 3 siblings that all played music, all into different genres. So I think he was into more of the fingerstyle and folk music. So that kind of stuck with him for all his life, really.
Which was pretty big back then in England.
Yeah. I mean, the folk scene was pretty big. But I think his guitar heroes would have been Tony Rice, Leo Kottke, Doc Watson, and also in the folk genre as well, John Renbourn and stuff like that. So growing up in the Pearson household, it was very much we were indoctrinated with that kind of guitar playing and music. So along with my mother, she loves all styles of music, so that would have been, there's a lot of Motown going on there, a lot of pop and rock, just everything really was just being submerged within.
And singing too. I mean, a lot of these guitar players were singers too.
Yeah. So yeah, my dad has always kind of sung around the house, my mum too. I'm not much of a singer, but I try and sing every now and then. We used to go to church. Back in Wales, I would go to church every Sunday. So I was also listening to a lot of hymns and spiritual songs too. So it was just a combination of a lot of music.
Yeah. When did you finally start playing?
So I started playing, I think I was 13 when I had my first guitar. I had an Ibanez SG. Which I don't really talk about much because we're always talking about acoustic, but the first guitar I ever had was an Ibanez SG. It was black, very metal, and I was into a lot of emo music and punk rock bands.
You had the long hair too, or?
I did have reasonably long, but I would learn these power fifth chords and stuff like that, and typical like 1-5-6-4 progressions, writing my own songs, joining some bands, and all I cared about really was like being able to do the around the world on the guitar and like throw it round and catch it and try and look cool. And at that point as well, my brother would be taking me to a lot of shows by the time I was like 12, so I was getting like a lot of live music put into me. But when I was about 14, that's when I was inspired by Tommy Emmanuel to pick up the acoustic guitar. I saw him and was completely blown away by his energy and his charisma and just how he plays. It was just like something I've never really heard before. And then during the concert he was talking about Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed and Merle Travis, and immediately I started researching them, and it was just this whole catalogue of world music just at my fingertips, no pun intended. So yeah, I think I got a best of Chet Atkins record with Mr. Sandman, and
you were still playing the SG?
No, but this was put down.
I'm sorry, that sounds really harsh.
Yeah. I was I euthanized the SG. I think like my dad, as soon as I said I want to play acoustic guitar, he got a beautiful Gordon Giltrap Chiari signature model. He found that for a really good price, but I think he got that for me for a Christmas present. but from every Christmas since I was like 8, I would have a present, and I would never, everything I asked, anything I would get, I kind of would, discard it after a week and be bored, whether it was like a games console or a scooter or something like that. So my dad thought, if I get him this KR guitar and he doesn't play, I don't play it, then my dad will get to play it. Yeah. That was his kind of plan, but it kind of backfired because I never put it down.
Yeah, that's great. And so you started playing. Did you have teachers back then?
No, I'm self-taught. Like my dad tried to show me a few things, but I was kind of like I didn't want to like listen to what he had to offer me or say. So what was a huge help for me was Stefan Grossman's workshop tutorial kind of stuff. There was like courses by Buster B. Jones, Stefan Grossman himself. There's just a whole catalogue of things I can learn from for fingerstyle, and my dad was a part of a bunch of guitar player online. They're called the fingerstyle tab pigs, and they would share tablatures amongst each other that they're trying to figure out. So I was getting a lot of Tommy Emmanuel arrangements from them as well. And just tab books. It was just the whole kind of like watching, learning and studying with my eyes. I'm a big visual learner, so that was a big thing for me.
So, like your generation, if I can say this, you had YouTube and found everything on the interweb and was able to learn from that. Yeah,
but funny enough, I would say I started learning 2 years before YouTube.
Okay.
And so I was learning from VCRs.
Yeah.
That was how I was learning. I think another thing that was I loved when people would talk about back in the day we used to listen to records and slow them down, and I kind of liked how like the older generation would say that in folk clubs. So I actually would go get records myself and try and learn that way too. So just so I can have something in common with older folks. So. Yeah, I learned from the records and slowing things down, and yeah.
So when you started playing fingerstyle, did you search out other people that you would play with, or would you just play by yourself and try to learn these arrangements and then maybe go out to jam sessions and things like that?
So yeah, I started playing live 5 months after playing guitar. As soon as I made the commitment, like, I want to do this, like, my dad kind of had the foresight of just saying, then you're gonna have to start playing in front of people immediately to get rid of any kind of nerves that might be lurking in. And so my dad's been like in guitar scenes in and out since his youth, so like he kind of knew where to go. So we went to like open mics, and there's like a guitar club. It's called the Isloin Acoustic Guitar Club.
Whereabouts in England are we speaking?
This is it. This would be in Wales, and it would be in like the valleys of Wales. So, the Isloin Acoustic Guitar Club would bring in a guitarist once a month, and what we would do is like have like an open mic before the main artist, so that a lot of folk legends would be coming in. We would have people from like Martin Simpson, from Martin Simpson, Wiz Jones, John Renbourn would come in. So a lot of great musicians would come in, but they would have like a workshop first, then an open mic, and then the main artist. So what would happen was like I would get to study whatever these guitar players would be offering at the workshop, and then I would get to perform a piece that I've been practicing that
before them.
Yeah.
So that must be scary.
Well, I think it just like shook off the nerves. It was more exciting for me because that's all I was focused on. I'd be in school, I would take my ukulele into school and practice my banjo rolls and just visualize in like what I'm gonna play that night. And then as soon as like school was over, I'd shoot off, get to the guitar club, and meet people. Like there's great guitar players that come from there as well. Chris Buck, I don't know whether you one of the best electric guitar players out there right now. He was at a part of the same guitar club.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to see what that. It was just a small little pub as well in Wales.
Yeah. And so that develops over years, I guess. And then there's this moment where you're thinking, well, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah, I'm still thinking that right now.
Okay, let's be a guitar player.
Yeah.
And but there comes a moment that you want to do this professionally. Did you get any assistance with that? I mean, at some point, did your father have to drive you around to?
Yeah, so he was. My dad was a big help. We would just go to guitar clubs all around. Then we'd start kind of not playing outside of Wales, so it'd be more in like, on the outskirts of Wales and into England, Bristol. Sometimes we're going into London. I left school when I was 16. Or I say I left, they pretty much kicked me out. So 2 days after I left school, though, I got a call to support Ray Davies of the Kinks. And I was playing with him in Cardiff. And that was a big kind of exposure for me. And then Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes were playing in town in Cardiff and Swansea, so I was opening for them, and then they took me to New Jersey to play at the I think I played the Stone Pony, and then I played Count Basie Theatre for their New Year's Eve concert. At the same time, like Tommy Emmanuel took me to Kaz to play at the Nashville.
So you met him, and he.
Yeah, so that was a huge. Big thing for me is for Tommy being a mentor. I was, me and my dad would go to a lot of his concerts, and I would just be the kid in the front row, just like moving enthusiastically to like every song he was playing. And at some point then, I got to play for him before a show. So I would have been about 15 at this point, and I showed him everything I was working on, and he was just incredibly supportive, and he kind of like gave me some really hard advice on just work on your time and work on your groove. And because I was learning a lot of his Chet Atkins pieces by ear, as soon as I'd hit a wrong chord, he would just point me out and goes, that's an A7, that should be an A7. And I wouldn't know what an A7 was. So he would get his guitar, showed me how to play these things correctly. And just from his passion about getting things right, I realized, oh man, I need to up my game if I'm going to impress this guy who I regard as the best guitar player in the world. And but towards the end, he said, if you ever get good enough, maybe you can open for me. So that's all I needed to hear. And about 5 months later, he was back in town, and he had me up on stage playing at a venue called The Point in Cardiff. And he tells the story of how he held the phone up to the PA system, and he called up the president of Kaz, Dr. Mark Pritchard, and he said, we need to get this guy at Kaz. And then Mark Pritchard said, done. So what Tommy did then was he said, we're going to get you to Kaz, now I got to try and get the plane tickets for you. So he kind of bribed or blackmailed the audience by saying, I just invited Gareth to Kaz, he'll be the first ever Welshman to ever play there, and I'm 16 at the time, so people in the audience feeling incredibly proud. And then he says, we just need someone to pay for his flight tickets, and there was 3 travel agents in the audience that said, we'll do it. So 16 then, I played in Nashville for the first time at the Chet Atkins Appreciation Society.
Well, it's not a bad guy to have in your corner.
No, but he's been amazing and very supportive. But when I was 17, I got onto NEM Productions, which has a roster of some incredible guitar players. So Tommy was a part of that. Holland's own Jan Ackerman was there, so he was a big mentor for me too, and like really like trained up a lot of my chops. Who else? Jennifer Batten, Clive Carroll, Johnny Dickinson, who's no longer with us, but he was a big help in my career. Andy McKee, John Remborn as well. I toured a lot with John, and again, he was just a special guy for me. He was always encouraging me to learn to read music, although I I never did. But he bought me this great book, and so I had a lot of experience in the folk circuit, traveling around with these incredible musicians.
Yeah, and so there's the moment that at some point you're thinking, well, I'm now doing this. I want to make a buck at it. I want to do this for a profession. Did you like have to accommodate, do stuff differently than you were doing at that moment that you made that decision? So how am I going to lead my life as a professional musician?
I'm like, to some extent I'm still trying to figure that out, because I'm always in artistic mode, which means you're kind of suffering for like good business ideas and business move when you just want to do something you're specifically passionate about and believe in. But no, like certain song choices, I'd always try and find something that might suit the audience and myself, so I'm not like just playing to one side of the game. But when I had the opportunity to record with Candy Rat, they wanted to be the people that to release my first record. So when I had a meeting with them, they basically said, "Oh, do you reckon you can do an album of half covers and half your own songs?" So I had my songs sorted, and I had like a few good arrangements, but like I just chose stuff like Michael Jackson hits, which was like Billie Jean and Thriller. Then I did a Radiohead cover, Paranoid Android, MGMT's Time to Pretend, which it's a huge song, but it was really big back then, and Weezer's Buddy Holly, and I think I did like I did Blue Smoke, a Mil Travis classic. So I kind of like figured out a way to hit a lot of different audiences, and it's like that album did really well for me.
And so the other half were originals,
and the other half was original. So six covers and 6 originals.
Yeah. So you mentioned a number of your musical influences, the reasons why you got started playing the fingerstyle guitar. Who were these people?
Okay, so I think like the first and foremost, I should like credit my dad for being a huge influence on me, in the fact that I've just been surrounded by this great music, and just growing up again with musicians like Tony Rice and the people he played with, like Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas, Mark O'Connor. Just having like amazing musicianship to listen to has been huge. And my dad's a great guitar player himself. He's got a wonderful touch. And I think my brother's been a big influence on me as well, in the sense of the music that he contributed in my life, and just like different in certain areas that my dad wasn't providing. So that was huge. But in terms of like actually getting into guitar, I would say Tommy was the main like huge guitar guy in my life, and then him introducing me to Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed and Mil Travis was huge. But then you got all these other fingerstyle guitar players that come out of that. So I try and think of it as that the holy trinity of fingerstyle is Chet, Jerry and Mil, and then you have like the disciples of that, which are like Tommy, Emmanuel, Richard Smith, Jim Nichols, John Knowles, Doyle Dykes, Tom Bresh, Buster B. Jones, Guy Van Duzer. Like, I feel like I'd be, if I continue, I could go on for ages. But those guys were huge influences for me. Then there's just guitar players that I don't necessarily play like, but I love listening to, that inspire me, like Prince, Jimi Hendrix. I used to listen to like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, Albert Lee, people I can just like steal licks from, and I think we all have our guitar nerds that we go in and out of. Yeah.
And so you would actually incorporate these licks from, say, Prince or Hendrix into your own playing? Yeah,
mainly their songwriting, maybe like how they chord voicings, and Lindsey Buckingham's a huge influence on me too.
Phenomenal player.
Yeah, like people like him, like he never describes himself as a guitar player, but more of a guitar thinker, which is very similar to Jerry Reed too. It's like they take the instrument and they just like create and think. So like again, my ego as a guitar player is more like I just like pick it up and try and create something out of what I'm doing without trying to necessarily be a guitar player, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And so let's pick up the guitar a little bit, and maybe what we can do is that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. Most of the time you were playing with a thumb pick.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried, or do you ever play with just your fingers?
I do, but it's a softer sound. Can I just quickly grab the thumb pick? Hold on a second.
I'll entertain the audience.
Yeah. Left my thumb pick on the table there, but so I can play with my thumb these classic like boom chick bass lines, but that's more like, it sounds more folky. It's softer, but with the thumb pick you'll have more of an aggressive attack. It's more I don't know, if it sounds more American folk to me. Yeah.
So was that a natural thing for you to pick that up, or was it like a Tommy thing that you saw that he was doing that and then?
So before then I was using a flat pick, doing the, like when I was seeing like with those emo kind of I was like playing like those punk rock kind of chords, but I was with a flat pick. But with the thumb pick I would be I immediately started playing like Fate Train and going into finger picking without having much experience with a thumb pick. It kind of like was an easy transition. I didn't have to like relearn anything. I just started finger picking with this thing on my thumb. A lot of people have difficulty having the technique already on the guitar and then sticking this on their thumb and being like, oh, it's so alien. But to me, it's like I was starting from the first steps. So if you do want to learn how to play with finger style, I do recommend getting a thumb pick, because you're gonna have a better tone to work with, I believe.
More aggressive and pronounced bass.
Yeah, and accurate too. Yeah. In the sense of like there's like little flicks. If you're playing like a downbeat, there's like that kind of accuracy. And then there's the little flick that grabs the G string too. So I'm going A, D, E, G. But if you really want to just add that extra little click, you're gonna come down on the D, but also flick the G too. So it'll be like.
Okay, yeah. So it becomes a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And so, would you use your thumb pick too when you're playing like licks in between?
Would I use
so more like what they would do in bluegrass and
yeah. So I'll like hold it as if it's a flat pick.
Yeah.
So
you would interchange this with playing what is it, a bum ditty kind of, or
yeah, I'll work in and out of the styles.
Yeah. So when you're playing the style, you will use your run-of-the-mill open string chords and bar chords and stuff like that. But Atkinson Reeds would also use some alternative, more complex voicings of their chords. Could you show some of that?
Yeah. So the reason behind a lot of those voicings, to be able to you want to like grab the bass lines and the actual chord, but you're figuring out how to reach certain harmonies that are melody notes too. So the chords can get quite extravagant. So like your standard C chords, for example, in first position, cowboy chord. So like the melody notes you have offered here, you're working within that, which is a first position. But then obviously when you get into your cage positions, you're working within these kind of shapes. Yeah. Kind of messing up here, but you're working within here, but I think using the thumb is a huge advantage. So if I'm playing like a bar chord here, I can take away the index finger and use my thumb to create that, which isn't so too unusual. But then what I'll do is I can take my middle, my ring finger and cover 2 strings with 1 finger here, so I can get the A and the D string there, which leaves my pinky finger free to grab, say, a 6 or a 9.
So with your ring finger, you're taking 2 strings at that point.
Yeah.
And that I actually tried that once. Didn't work out for me. I couldn't do it. Would you put your strings on your guitar like closer to each other in that sense, in a technical sense, or is it just trying to push them in between? Because most of the time when I would do it, they would actually be dampened, or one of the strings would be dampened.
Yeah, so it does help to have a lower action on the guitar. So, because you're kind of utilizing the guitar as if it's an electric guitar at this point. When you go beyond the 5th fret, some of these chords are going to be really difficult to play. So having a lower action is going to help. A good setup as well. But there's other chords as well you can get, like with the if you're going to use it. That's got the 6 and a 9 in. Then you can get like the 7th and the 9. So yeah, like having a lower action helps. To be honest, the action on this can come down a little bit lower, I think. Okay. I think the humidity here is
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So as I said before, you did 3 courses for TrueFire.
Mm-hmm.
That is with me as a producer, and then an additional 2 when you went down to Florida and did another 2 there. And I think you were going to do more work with them.
Yeah, I have 2 courses I'm working on now for next month, and so one of them's going to be on pop progressions, in terms of how to utilize acoustic guitar for pop music. And the next, the other course is going to be, I think we're working on 30 finger picking patterns for folk country and pop music as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. They're great people. Let's talk a little bit about gear.
Okay.
What are you playing now?
So yeah, I'm working on some new gear right now. In terms of guitars, I'm using these Ketma guitars. My 2 main ones really are this Dreadnought, and I have like a Dreadnought hybrid. It's like basically a cutaway of this. I'm still playing Maton guitars for my live sound, which utilizes the Maton AP5 Pro pickup system. Capos, I'm using these great G7 capos. This one's the ART, which is adaptive radius technology, which there's like trigger points in the gel in the top here, which adjust to the circumference of the guitar. Okay. So it just avoids some kind of tuning problems that you can have with most capos. When you stick them on, they're completely flat. But with these capos, they kind of just surround the neck just a little bit more appropriately, I should say, which helps. And so I've been using these for over 16 years now, and their designs just keep getting better and better. So I'm using that. I'm using the XT Diodario strings, which are fairly new. They kind of coated. It's like most coated strings, but they've done a better job with over other coated brands. I feel like I like the feel and the touch of them, and their tuning's just better too, and the tone. Let's see where else we got. For thumb picks, I use Dunlop mediums. I like these. There are other good thumb picks out there, but I always find it a little too thin. These ones, the mediums, I like the tightness that it has on my thumb. Along with the tone I can get in terms of they're quite heavy, and to play like really good authentic fingerstyle music, I feel like you need a good heavy pick in order to get that like that tone. and let's see, whatever things. Amplifiers, I use AER amps, and in terms of gear, I'm always messing about with gear. But right now, I'm using the HX Stomp box. The TC tuner is my go-to. The Qtron kind of pedal for kind of funky sounds.
Okay, yeah.
And what else am I using there? Oh, then the Bose OC3 octave pedal.
Yeah.
So that basically I can trigger they have a polyphonic mode on that, which allows me to trigger what bass notes I want to come through. So whenever I'm playing like those kind of like 1/5 bass lines,
Yeah.
I'm actually getting the lower frequency of it, so it does sound like there's a bass playing spot on with me when I'm doing those riffs.
Yeah.
So
in terms of live sound, do you ever play with microphones, or is it always through the pickup?
I only use a mic to speak into.
Okay.
But like my mating guitars, they have a piezo and a microphone in them, so it's like I'm getting the best of both worlds with that pickup.
And can you still adjust the microphone? Because
You can.
Yeah.
They've done a good job with that. I can adjust the volume of the pickup, the bass and the treble, and I can adjust the microphone and the pickup, so I can make it immensely mid-rangey if I want to, or I can take out the mids and just make it all mic, and I can combine between the both too.
Yeah. That's great. Now, of course, an important question for us in the Netherlands is, when are you coming over again?
Whenever I'm invited. So that's your job there, I guess,
Okay,
Matthew.
I guess it is. Well, thank you so much, Gareth, for doing this interview for us. You're going to do another or performance for us. Is this going to be one of your own pieces?
Right now,
The one that you're going to record.
No, that's going to be. I'm going to teach you guys "Hello, My Baby."
Okay, tell me about that song.
It's just a classic, old school song. I think it's been used several times, so it really helps just explain some of the fingerstyle pyrotechnics that I'm using.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Gareth, for wanting to do this in your hometown, New York, and I hope to see you on the flip side in the Netherlands.
I'll see you guys again. Thanks so much for having me here.
Okay.